Holly writes, you mentioned in a couple of videos that it took you a while to get to OMAD. I seem to remember in one video you said it took 8 or 9 months until you were able to do it. I'd like to know the timeline. Were you a breakfast eater? Did you start by pushing back 1 hour a day? And how long did you stay at that new time before you pushed it back another hour? Did you have a set amount of time, such as 2 weeks at 9 a.m., then 2 weeks at 10 a.m., etc.? Or did you push back your time only when you felt ready? And how did you know you were ready? So that's a great question, and I'll explain to you how I got to OMAD. So first of all, I learned about intermittent fasting at the end of 2014. It was the beginning of December when I first started to really mess with it. And so I started out with a very short fast because you asked about what kind of eating was I doing before. I was like a hobbit. I would eat breakfast and then like have 11sies and then, like eat afternoon snacks. And then there was really no like boundaries around my eating. So I just kind of ate all day. With intermittent fasting, I thought, okay, I already kind of eat all day long. So I need to go at this really slowly. And I really wasn't sure what intermittent fasting would do to my body. I was really paranoid about, what it might do to my hormones and my metabolism. So I started out with just an 8-hour fast. And so what that looked like for me, I thought, okay, basically I'll just sleep through it. And I know most people will be like, that's not even a fast, but I needed that first little boundary. So I started out saying like, okay, I won't eat after 10 p.m. And because I was a late night snacker too, so I won't eat after 10 p.m. And I won't eat breakfast until 6 because I wasn't sleeping that great during that time. So a lot of times I would wake up really early, and so that's what it was looking like for me. So an 8-hour fast, and then I thought, oh well, that's pretty easy. That was like the first little boundary around food. And so then I started saying, okay, I feel like I could push breakfast out a little bit later. And so I started doing that. And that was pretty easy to start doing that, just to say, okay. And then once I got to about 10 a.m., that's when I started to say, okay, this is starting to feel like I was ready to eat at 10. So then I started pushing my nighttime boundary earlier. So I think what I really started to do was about 8 p.m. To about 10 p.m. And so that was a 14-hour fast. And it took me about a month to get there. And so it was very gradual. And it wasn't like saying, okay, I'm going to push it back 1 hour each week, or I'm going to do this for 2 weeks or whatever. It was just based on how I felt. And so sometimes it would be like, oh, wow, I can push it out, another hour, 2 hours easy. And then other times it felt like, okay, this is the max, and I had to just stay there for a while. It was not by any stretch of the imagination something that I did in a very regimented and planned out sort of way. I really wanted to focus on how I was feeling, and I was feeling really good. And so that's how I did it. Now, in 2015, so by the end of December, I was like at a 14-hour fast. And then throughout the year of 2015, I stayed at like a 14-hour fast because I had read an article on the internet somewhere that said, oh, women shouldn't do fast longer than 14 hours. So I stuck with that. I thought, well, I don't want to mess up my hormones. So I pretty much stayed with that. Occasionally I would do a 16-hour fast just to kind of see what it was like. And I was like, that actually feels really good. So I occasionally would incorporate those in, but I wasn't consistent. And that was my big problem in 2015 was I was not consistent. I would quit on things. I was doing a bunch of different stuff. And I just, I had a lot of times where I just would kind of give up and then I would go back to doing it. So it's hard to, tell you like this is the way you should do it because I was messing up a lot, quite frankly. But one good thing I did do was I continued to pay attention to how I was feeling, and I never tried to rush the pushing out of the window. I did try to rush my weight loss, but I didn't try to rush the pushing out of my window. And so in 2016, that's when I said, okay, I got to figure this out. I've got to get really clear on what I'm doing. And so that's when I came up with my simple plan. Okay, intermittent fasting 6 days a week, walk 6 miles a day, and then cheat day on Sunday. And so after that point, so at that point I was like at a 16-8. That was the most I had really fasted. And I started out with 16-8 fast pretty consistently. I didn't have a rule at that point, but I was thinking, well, I'm going to push my fasting window out later. Now, I did that for 2 reasons. First of all, food was becoming less important to me. Previous to this, like I said, I was eating all the time and there was no real boundary. But as I started to put up those boundaries, I started to free up a lot of my time. I was able to, do more interesting things with my time than eat. And so I liked it. The longer I could fast, the more I could get done and the more I could, read or practice sign language or whatever the thing was. But the other reason was, I thought, hey, if I fast for longer periods of time, my weight loss will be faster, because at that time I was losing about a pound a week. And so I thought it'll speed up if I make it a shorter eating window. But that's not how it happened for me, even when I got to OMAD. So I started pushing out, from January 2016. I would just occasionally, I would go a little bit, as I felt ready. Like I would push it out to an 18, then a 20. I got to like a 20-hour fast, then 4-hour eating period. And then the stomach virus hit our household. And I, at that point, was very afraid of the stomach bug. And I would get really nervous. I didn't get sick, but I did get really nervous. And I could not, eat. I just couldn't force myself to eat until supper time. I was like, I've got to eat something. So I would eat. And so I did that for several days because it was, horrible bug. But at the end of that week, I looked at the scale. I was like, oh, wow. I mean, I had lost I think about 6 pounds. I want to say right now, after I saw that weight loss, I was like, okay, I've got to try this OMAD thing. I looked up, can you do it? And I saw that other people do it. So I said, okay, I'm going to try this. But my weight loss stalled out for another 6 weeks after that. So I want to caution you that even if you do see a big drop when you go to OMAD, it's probably going to kind of even out itself. So that still really meant I was losing about a pound a week. And if you look at my numbers for 2016, that was the average. So whether I was doing a 16.8, 18.6, 24, or doing OMAD, it was about a pound a week. But once I started practicing it, it became my preferred way of eating, because again, it was, it simplified my life. I really was able to get a hold on my emotional eating, because I had such a huge chunk of time that I was not eating. That was my one rule. I will not eat during this time. So I was forced to deal with all these other little issues that were causing me to overeat in the first place. And I think that slow, gradual process that I used actually was a really good thing, because it made intermittent fasting this really well-ingrained habit, and it didn't seem so weird. One thing that can happen is if you go from, say, eating 5-6 meals a day down to 1 meal a day, it can seem very weird, and it's a big change, and that can be really uncomfortable. And when you're dealing with all the other stuff that comes with weight loss, all the issues that are surfacing, it can just make it more difficult than it needs to be. So I advocate for the very gradual approach, going as you feel ready, and not just having that as I have to get to OMAD in order to reach my goal weight, because you can certainly lose weight with a lot of different methods. But even a 16.8 or an 18.6, I think is a really good option. Me personally, I did OMAD for a very long time, and nowadays, now that I'm maintaining, occasionally I'll do OMAD, but I've found that I prefer to do a 2 meals a day usually. So if you don't want to get to OMAD, if you're thinking well, that'll help me to lose weight faster, I wouldn't do it for those reasons. But if you like the idea of OMAD for life simplification, that kind of thing, I think it's a great idea. Thank you for your question, Holly, and I hope that helps. Now, if you have a question out there and you would like me to answer it, and I haven't yet covered it on this channel, you can submit your question for consideration at 6milestosupper.com/ask. If you're having trouble getting started on your weight loss journey, check out my Slow and Steady Success Academy. You can subscribe to the entire course collection, which includes monthly access to my flagship course, Intermittent Fasting for Weight Loss 101, which is the course on intermittent fasting that I wish I would have had when I first heard about it. You'll also get access to courses about mindset and maintenance and weight tracking. My goal with each course is to teach you how to lose weight sustainably and keep it off for the rest of your life. Come join the Academy today.